I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by a panel of industry experts today to share their insights on the manufacturing and the data side of the business. Today we'll be seeing a presentation from James Ward, who's a Senior Insight Manager at GfK. And we'll be then moving into a discussion with two premium manufacturer executives. I'm joined by Andrea Minenti, who's Vice President of the North Region of Bridgestone, and Pravesh Amta, who's Sales General Manager, Consumer UK and Ireland for Goodyear. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
James, we'd like to kick off proceedings with your presentation, because this is new to all of us, and this is, as far as we're concerned, this is the latest insights into what's been going on this year in the market. Let's see what's been happening.
Thanks so much, Chris. As Chris said, we will go through the tyre market overview. It will present a GB and a global update on changes that have happened in 2020. And over the next half a dozen slides or so, we'll give you a top-line insight view into those key facts and those key points that are affecting your business today. So firstly, we'll look at the global tyre market overview. GfK collects data from their panel market. Most of these will be based on tyre specialists. First, we have a look by continent, and we split Europe into west and east. And you can see that those in Eastern Europe are only down sales. SU is sales units and SV is sales value in Europe. So as a whole, we're down 14%. So we're down to 218 million units. And that's down 12% in value, so it's around 21 billion euro. Eastern Europe has been hit the least. That's just -3% in units, and as well as North America as well, where some other countries, especially Western Europe, have been hit one of the largest, as well as South America, with units down a fifth. The Asia markets were down sharply, but they've recovered in recent months to pull it back to just -16% in units and 13% in value as well. If we look at a global view, still focusing on those countries, we can see changes in behavior and buying pattern when compared to the same period last year. So here we look up to the end of August, and we can see changes in seasonality with growth in all season, and those taking share from and units from winter. Across vehicle types, all have been affected, so even light truck, 4x4 and passenger car down the heaviest, down 16%. And we expect those maybe to continue as well. Rim size, we see the smallest sizes being hit the most, those 15-inch and less, and those larger sizes maybe being able to just hold on to their share, but even those around 17-inch have been hit hard in the current pandemic. We can see in a little bit more clarity here what's been shifting and the type of vehicle behind that. It's the small SUV that has been pushing an increase in share year on year. So going back from 2015, it's managed to jump up 7 points. Yes, some of them remain the same, but it's squeezing those smaller segment cars, and that's our trend. And don't forget, these cars will still be on the road for some time to come. The effect of COVID has had a fairly, this is data that GfK collects every month from adults as a national representative sample in the country. So we've seen a fairly pessimistic view in Europe. GB is one of those hit the most. I mean, so we have you can give an answer better, equal, or worse on how your financial situation will be in the next 12 months. And GB, we're down. This is up to the end of August, so we don't have the latest. We're not showing the latest data yet, which will be out shortly. So Spain, and GB are very similar with -40. But even those 5 European countries are down quite sharply. So we have Spain, France, GB, but the one Germany isn't hit. Doesn't reach double figures for their negativity. They've managed to ride out the pandemic better than most of the other major European countries. But yeah, but the view for going forward is more pessimistic, and that can obviously hurt, that can obviously affect the market in the way drivers behave. We've seen new registrations fall, but it also means that people and drivers will spend less on their car in terms of buying a car, the maintenance of a car, and obviously Tyres is behind that as well. But let's see and have a look at how these countries performed so far this year. So we can have a look at the impact of COVID, and we can see how dramatically that hit all of these countries in March, April, when we had the first lockdown. So we had countries down almost 90% in Spain, where we know there was a strong lockdown. But the market's recovered. We see the market going into summer. Yes, we had cars and the MOT exempt, but even that didn't really hit the market recovery that hard. And we've come further out of that into August, where the GB is now -2. Some other countries are -6, where compared to previous years. But the recovery, and some have crept into positivity as well. We've seen some growth in France in August. But obviously, with the second lockdown looming, it'd be interesting to see how that affects the countries more as well as we move on. So we can look at GB in a bit more detail, and on the left we can see how the market's changed. This is looking at January to August for this year, and we can see in terms of value and volume, we're just down under a fifth for both. And even in the larger rims, which have helped the market out in the last few years, those 17-inch high performance and plus high performance tyres, they've been hit relatively quite hard as well, down 16% in terms of value and 15% in terms of volume. That's an average across the year, and we have seen some good changes to the market in the last couple of months, but we will have to see how they would affect going forward as well. We look at the vehicle type, so we have the passenger car taking the lion's share of the market, almost 8 out of 10. But there's been a gradual decline in passenger car over the last few years. Of drivers have switched to 4x4 and SUVs as well. There's obviously a little bit of a grey area between the two, but GfK code by what the tyre manufacturer says. And we see some changes as well here with SUVs taking more share. And also vans taking now 12% of that's light commercial vans or light truck taking 12% of the market in terms of units. So that's at one point. Obviously, we've seen more online shopping and more home deliveries. So we expect this area to continue to grow. We can see how that's affected the brands. And overall for premium have managed to hold on to their share so far. They haven't been hit that hard, maybe not as hard as some of it have expected. And here but on the other hand, we've seen budget go up 2 points, taking 44% share, and that's taken the share from the mid-range brands as well. So we can see here that drivers are looking for concerns, and we have a different type of driver changing their tyre as well. The premium, we would have like some fleet drivers, some company car drivers, or drivers, doing those long distances, and that behaviour has changed. And we'll touch a little bit more about that in a moment or two. We've mentioned the seasonality before, and we can see all season has held on, and on average we're down around 17% in terms of value, and all season we're just down 1% and just 5% in terms of the volume, in terms of units shifting down. So that's what was a strong area of growth, and that's managed to, it's obviously lost that growth, but it hasn't lost as much as the rest of the market and those rims that have changed. What it has affected is a winter's down a fifth, It's not just, yes, we have warmer winters now, and with climate change probably affecting some things as well. We see all season as the solution. There's no need for that. Biannual change is just one fit can last you all year as well. And we expect the trend for winter, to continue as it is for the moment as well. But where does that bring us on to? Where does the outlook lie for that? So we can see that the average age of vehicles will increase. So we have some new registrations at an all-time low, both in private and fleet. And we see that drivers will keep their car longer. There will be more second-hand purchases. We've seen drivers we've seen public not want to use public transport. So they're buying second-hand cars to use that. That means there's more opportunity for some. The car will be then out of warranty. The car will be older and have more problems, but then they're likely to try and spend less on their car as well. Fitting a mid-range or most likely a budget tyre as well. But we expect, these larger rim sizes, they've held on to most of their sales. They haven't been as sharply as affected as the smaller size rims across Europe, and also the same for GB as well. And just mentioned a couple of moments ago, but all season is still out there. People, the price isn't that much different, and they would gain popularity across all brands and tiers as well. The longer term behavior of drivers will, I think, affect the market more permanently. Look where we are now. We're still, 9 months in, and a number of us are still working from home, and that's going to continue for the foreseeable future. So those meetings we would have gone to face to face, driven up the motorway for several hours, or that commuting hour and a half each way for work is no longer happening. Yes, people will go back to the office, they will return to work, but not for those 4 or 5 days they were going permanently. It will be going for just like 1-2 days a week. And obviously behind that we've got just around the corner from that, we've got the no deal looking more likely. This will place some challenges possibly on supply coming in from the continent, and also our tax on that as well. Yes, we see car tires will probably likely to be added 4.5% tax if there's no deal, but there'll be some other products as well. TVs coming in from Europe will have 14.5% tax added on, so that will be less disposable income in the consumer's pocket as well. On the flip side of that, we've got more growth online, and that will continue probably into purchasing car tires, but it's being used for home shopping. So yes, there will be more vans making those home deliveries, but of course drivers using their car less to go out to those shopping centres and retail parks and town centres.
Thank you, James. As a fascinating presentation. I have to say the first thing was kind of an upbeat point that I took away from that when we looked at the predictions for how much the market would be down at the beginning of the year, actually the outcome so far seems to be ahead of that. So I was wondering, Pravesh and Andrea, is that presentation reflective of your experience as tyre manufacturers?
Yes, so maybe I can jump into that. So firstly, thanks for inviting us to join your panel today. I would say the presentation that James went through now is very reflective of the market and how it's evolved over the past few months. I think from our side also, at the very beginning, we had a very conservative approach of how the market would recover. And I would say that the market is much more buoyant than we anticipated. And when you look at some of the key trends that have come out, is really around shopper and consumer experience. We've seen that 4 out of 5 consumers today are changing their shopping behavior. E-commerce has become very popular, and digital engagement has been key and is increasing and diversifying. Consumers have been looking to support local and regional products, and then also that experience is rooted in safety and accessibility. So making sure that customers and retailers have a good online presence is going to be key. moving forward. And as James mentioned, with more and more people having home deliveries and being comfortable with receiving a lot of goods at home, we've definitely seen that light truck segment increasing over the past few months, as that last mile delivery is definitely surging at the moment.
Andrea, is that reflective of your experience?
Yes, let me join Pravesh in thanking you for inviting, first of all, and thanks, James, for really insightful and interesting presentation. Yeah, mostly we share the view. We think that there's definitely there has been quite a dramatic drop in March that we have seen. And then there was a massive debate, of course, around the L shape, U shape, and different shapes of the curve. I think what we experienced was probably slightly faster than expected recovery in the first phase, which has continued until now in some way, and that was probably in line with what you presented, James. Now, of course, the big question mark is how this curve would change again, considering the latest COVID development and, of course, the lockdowns measures that seems to have been taken all across Europe and in the UK in particular. So I think that this is at the moment is a little bit of the spanner in the work that seems to have changed the scenario. We have seen and we agree with some macro trend that you have highlighted. For sure, again, if we are looking into the online ordering into the small vehicles or light vehicles deliveries, that has been definitely quite of a trend that have in some way probably supported some of the figures that you just showed. At the same time, yeah, we agree that there is a decrease of the private mobility, mainly because of office closures and, of course, during the lockdown, less private use of cars. Again, it's very difficult right now probably to predict how it goes. Certainly, again, the decrease of the disposable income could have an impact on buying new cars. But at the same time, we will see more second-hand, probably longer life for the existing cars, which could have in some way reflections on the replacement market in particular. Another trend that we have seen and I like to probably highlight is also the new electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles that we have seen again increasing in terms of probably more sensitivity to the environmental and sustainability topic. And again, this could be perhaps another good opportunity for the marketplace and developing new products specifically for that kind of vehicles typology. So all in all, I mean, definitely we share most of the views and what we have seen so far. Again, the big stress and the big concern is around the next phase and how this new second wave would pan out.
So I'm interested in one of those trends that James highlighted was of an increase in budget and a decrease in the mid-range. Now, as premium manufacturers, that didn't directly affect your flag brands, your premium products, but I wonder how you interpret that, what might be called desegmentization effect. Go ahead, Pravesh.
Yeah, I think on our side, again, we're looking at what the effect on the economy is going to be. There's been a massive shock to the economy, and at this stage, people will be looking at what the disposable income will be, and that's why we've seen a lot of the increase on the budget brands. But at the same time, people are valuing safety, and this is where we can look to see the premium fitments happening on those vehicles as people do prioritize safety, and they look at the certain characteristics that premium manufacturers and premium drivers would be putting into their tires. So a lot of the innovation coming through from our side, and how that impacts the roadworthiness of the vehicles.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Pravesh. We've noticed a similar trend in the sense that probably there was a bit more concern at the beginning of this crisis around where the demand would go into, whether there could be a massive impact on the premium brand, and perhaps because of disposable income, there was a little bit of concern that things could have moved into the budget. But I definitely agree that perhaps, and this is something that we observed in period of uncertainties, it looks like the consumers, there seems to be a little bit more interest in making sure that they have certainty in terms of brands, in terms of reliability, in terms of making sure that they can count on certain kind of performance instead of risking. So I think it was an interesting trend that we noticed, that in actual fact, probably the loyalty to big brands and to, of course, performing brand has been probably higher than what expected. At the same time, perhaps, of course, the disposable incomes and issues in terms of economical market trend could have reflections in the increase of the budget in some way.
As a kind of follow-up to that question, of course, the GfK data is based on a panel market of sellout data. How can the tyre trade respond positively to such a trend?
Yeah, I can answer. I think one thing that we have noticed, and one thing that we have been incredibly mindful in this crisis is making sure that despite the difficulties, we keep the needs of the market at the top of our agenda. So being close to the market and being close to the end users has been a top priority. So make sure that we never lost sight of what was going on in the external, whilst managing with the crisis has been a big topic in Bridgestone. And I think one thing that I like to mention has been our we call it keep Britain moving in some way. We have, of course, a network of tyre technicians. Just as an example, we have 124 tyre technicians across the territory who have been focusing in making sure that bus and trucks continue to carry out their duties, and at the same time that the safety of public transport and heavy vehicles has been always guaranteed across the crisis. So that has been a huge effort from our side. And again, it's difficult when, of course, there are crises and unexpected or unprecedented situations to deal with, to make sure that we never lose sight of our customers and the market, of course, and at the same time make sure that we safeguard the safety of our people.
Pravesh, how can tyre retailers respond positively to these kinds of trends?
I think what we've been doing at the moment is, I mean, as Goodyear, we always consider ourselves as a partner and not just a supplier. So we've been working with tyre retailers to make sure that the necessary measures are put into place to make sure that we have the safety, well-being of our customers, suppliers, and associates. What we've been doing, especially within our HiQ network, is there's been a lot of information that has been coming from different angles, and we've been helping to consolidate that, also to filter it and make sure that our tyre retailers can adapt to the new norms. So we've supported them through our HiQ franchise head office, Also, from a Goodyear perspective, making sure we put a robust matrix in to follow and leverage learnings from our own company. You know, we have manufacturing facilities, we have office protocols, and we've been able to share that with our retailers. And when you look at it, there's really three elements and areas that we've been working with them on, is making sure that they can get their shop ready to operate under these new conditions. You know, how do they interact with customers, their social distancing, you know, what can they put in place, like examples like barriers, routes. So really supporting customers to feel comfortable. And then lastly, how to manage vehicles, car collection, protecting high contact surface areas. So we've really been trying to work with them to adapt to these new ways of working.
Looking at the consumer trends, there were two changes of behaviour I think we could identify that were particularly stood out to me, at least, and that was the uptick in online sales, and also the relatively positive performance of all-season tyre products. I just wonder if you could comment on those two areas.
Yeah, if I might answer, again, it's something that struck me in James' presentation, and again, it's a view that we shared. Definitely, again, if we start from the online, clearly one of the trend is people seems to be getting used to the remote facilities, and obviously this is a huge impact of COVID, and probably is going to be here for long, and not only related to COVID. I think it's just an acceleration of existing trend. So for sure, the remote ordering or e-commerce and mobility fitting as well, mobile fitting, sorry, is definitely a trend that we've seen increasing, and probably will continue to increase. Time that consumers and public are probably happy to spend into tire dealer shops will be definitely reduced, and people try to make the most out of the time, and mobile fittings facilities. And this is definitely something that, again, it's a well-defined trend. The second topic about the all seasons, again, I think this is a clear reflection of the less disposable incomes and certain issues that we're going to be facing. So, of course, in the UK, the winter tire has not been a huge, or in terms of shares, has not been that substantial like in some other areas of the continent. But I think the all season, of course, will make even easier the decision, and instead of opting for winter or summer, obviously the all seasons is a good compromise, and probably in terms of cost also a good solution. I mean, we just launched, for example, the A005 Evo, which is the new version of the all season or winter or weather control tire. And this is exactly as a result of the same view in terms of the way that these trends are gonna go.
Yeah, maybe I can also continue on the all-season side. Like I mentioned earlier, one of the things that customers are doing now are really emphasizing the health and safety as a priority. And looking in the past, when you've had to change to seasonal tires between summer and winter, you've got the cost of storage, fitting. You've also got the inconvenience of having to go in and get your tires fitted. All season can be a choice during the specific time period now, so it's less contacts to go and get your tires changed. We've seen over the past few years now milder and milder winters. All season has grown during that time. There's been a lot of development by a lot of the premium manufacturers to find a tire that is adaptable to the environments. And in the UK, all season tires have been a good choice. We've also spent a lot of time innovating as Goodyear. We've got our Vector 4 Seasons family and generations out there. We've also launched, the new generation 3 this year. So all season is a growing market. We've seen that being growing over the past few years, and it has been quite resilient during this period, based on the figures that James shared with us earlier. When we look at it, it's also an opportunity, especially in the light truck segment. So with people having more and more home deliveries, there is this robust tire that can be used by carriers through that time. Coming back to online, it's going to be all about that seamless customer journey and experience. There's going to be a lot of enhancements on that front to make it an easy to do business with from a consumer point of view. So this is where we're also engaging with our customers to find what's the best way to maximize this opportunity and build structures and solutions that can adapt very quickly.
If I can just come in there, Chris, about all season. All season, yeah, but the consumer has to know the difference in quality of all season. Similar to what Andrea mentioned about budget, we see a wide variety of all season tires coming in from the Far East. Some brands we've never heard of before, all probably made in the same factory, selling tens of thousands of units. And there's a quality difference that I think the consumer isn't aware of at the moment, whether it be this education journey being done by the press or tyre manufacturers, or even a more official route via the government, because anyone, we know anyone can still stick an all-season print on the side of their tyre, and it can be sold as that. And I think the consumer needs and the driver needs some more support in making that choice, and that's where the retailer can help them.
Yes, we've seen on our sister site, the consumer-facing whattire.com, we've seen a significant uptick in pre-sale research in the last month. We went through 53,000 visits, and part of the roadmap for developing that on our side, at least, is to increase our ability to distinguish between performance according to season. So right now we're rating performance according to the label and cross-referencing it with tire tests, but moving forward, there is a real demand to be able to show the difference in performance in specialized winter tires as well as all-season tires. And yes, James, that's something we've seen. Some all-season tires genuinely aren't performing in winter conditions, and it's almost as if at the budget end of the spectrum, they've simply rebranded a general product as an all-season tire. And that's very different to the award-winning products of both Goodyear and Bridgestone that have been tested independently by separate third-party testers as well as magazine testers, and found to be very strong products. So there's some way to go to communicating that to the consumer. But the interesting thing is that they are looking now more than ever for that information. I wonder how the route to market has evolved at this time, gentlemen.
Yeah, I think this is an incredibly good point. It's a valid point, and I think this is one of the major efforts that I can see, not only coming from manufacturers, but associations and probably governments as well. In making sure that there is the right communication and culture and knowledge, of course, around tires quality and performance, of course. I think this is really an area that we probably all becoming active, and I can see the efforts not only from us, but from other manufacturers in the industry. Specifically, we are, for example, right now developing online training platforms that we like to deploy, again, more and more considering the difficulty also that we have right now in having or arranging in-person sessions. So this is another areas that we have to be mindful that right now, because the number of visits to customers perhaps are going to decrease, the number of direct contacts are going to decrease, and we'll have to make sure that we're going to be in a position anyway to deliver and pass across essential information like safety and performance and the right use of tires. That's another areas that I can see major development. Online platforms, training sessions, virtual online sessions. These are all definitely areas that we all need to focus and make sure that the lack of contact is not going to the detriment of the mass of information that we pass across to the public and the segment, really.
Yeah, I can only reconfirm it. I mean, as we see now in the environment, is everything is gone to a virtual experience, and we need to manage being able to create the right digital content and learning in a way that it can be consumed quite easily. We've explored things like learning platforms, also online training that's to a certain extent gamified to make it easier to understand, and it engages our dealers to want to be able to learn. From an end consumer point of view, so what we've tried to do is, when they're in that time period where they're looking and searching for tires, can we be able to reroute them to our Goodyear website so that they can learn more about the tires all season? So a dedicated landing page showcasing the performance of the all-season tires, what the features and benefits are, and should they wish to purchase, helping direct them to the nearest dealer. So, that whole digital journey is something that we're continuously working on, as well as other players in the industry.
Moving back to the sellout part of the market, to the tyre trade itself, there had been some hope that following on from the MOT deferral earlier in the year, that the last quarter of the year would be something of an MOT boom, leading to increased tyre sales that hopefully would have done something to replace some of the lost sales from earlier in the year. Now, since the Prime Minister has announced a second lockdown over the weekend, which we'll be implementing as this is broadcast, I wonder what you can do as a manufacturer to reassure and or support retailers in continuing their business in such an environment.
Yeah, I think from our side, like you mentioned, MOT, especially in the last quarter, was being seen as that opportunity for businesses to recover. Now with the new news, we'd have to work with our retailers to make sure that, again, whatever they're doing today to service those MOTs and those customers, they're doing it in a safe environment. There's a lot of learnings that have been taken over the past few months. We want to make sure that we're sharing that with the industry. We want to make sure that the tires are available, that should they need them, we're working on an end-to-end supply chain level to make sure that tires are available and be stored at customers in the appropriate timing. So again, we want to support where we can, and we'll continue to communicate, especially around emphasizing that safety and well-being element of it.
Yeah, I share the view, and I think on top of it, we do have the Brexit situation that we have to manage at the same time. That doesn't make things definitely easier. I think, as Pravesh said, availability, making sure that the right tires are stocked will be probably fundamental during the next couple of months or 3 months. And in this case, of course, I think again, working closely with the customers, with the market, making sure that there is a way to plan orders and supply could support in managing the volatility, because there will be definitely volatility. I think at this stage is impossible for everybody to predict exactly what the situations could be, but certainly we have two major issues: Brexit and the COVID, that probably we have never seen in such a combination before. Again, I think making sure that we guarantee the right level of contact with the customers, with the consumers in this difficult time is key. And for example, not stopping innovating. I think from crisis like this one, there are also new trends and possibility of quite unexpected development that we all have to be ready to capture. For example, we just launched our Tyre subscription purchasing scheme. So essentially, we launched in July Mobox, which is a way to buy tires by subscription, exactly like it happens for the millennial, especially with service like Netflix, Spotify, etc., etc. So for as little as £7 actually a month, you can have your tires, and we launched it through ETB, five stores right now offering this option. So again, I think be ready, and sometimes maybe take also some risks, but be ready to capture a new trend. Could actually offer some opportunities as well.
I think just jumping in there again, Chris, on the COVID situation, we expect we had a number of closures last time from nationals and independents and some regional multiples as well. I think the experience they would have learnt, and they would have had that PPE now in stock and availability and how to get it. They would have learned how to work with the customer. Pravesh mentioned about the safety, of the consumer coming into the outlet, and I think more will stay open. That means there'll be more competition, but it does mean they will be there servicing and being able to work on vehicles as well. Whereas last time, some may have closed, some may have closed for good, sadly. But that obviously gives an opportunity to others as well.
Yes, looking at its early days, and we need to see the details of it, but the lockdown 2.0, if we might call it that, does appear to be slightly more pragmatic in its framing than the initial one. For example, work is not excluded completely. It's whether or not work can be done safely and effectively, and that key word effectively seems to provide more room for commuting, but also it provides the necessary opportunity for businesses to remain open in a way that they maybe wouldn't have done beforehand. With that in mind, none of us can foresee with perfect accuracy, but can we interpret, based on the data from the presentation, which turned out to be a little bit more positive than people were expecting, can we say that perhaps this second lockdown won't be as bad as the first?
Well, I think yes. I believe, of course, schools are open. That obviously is one of the major difference as well. University are open. Constructions, clearly, industry are open as well. So we hope that of course, the first thing that we hope is that that will be enough and will serve actually to reduce the spread of the virus. But at the same time, we hope that with the more social distancing, with more experience, and people a little bit more mindful at the same time, would make businesses still in a position to run at a decent level. So I think we won't see, that's my expectation, or our expectations is we won't see the level of reduction, if there is going to be, of course, some reductions that we have seen or we saw in the first lockdown or with the first virus wave. But inevitably, I think that there will be obviously some, to a degree, some impact. Now, I really the only hope that we have is that this could last and could be enough to reduce the impact or the possible further aggravation of this virus epidemic. But again, this is something that I think it's impossible for anybody to predict.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty into how this will play out. Well, what I would say is the one positive thing is that over the past few months, the industry as a whole has adapted, and they've adapted in the right way, in that they can have a much more easier working experience now. So what we've also seen is, from a mobility point of view, there's a little more mileage being driven at the moment. People are looking at, their mobility and their modes of transport which benefit their social distancing practices. So we've seen the usage of more private vehicles, more smaller vehicles. And of course, with MOTs being extended, people also want to make sure that when they're using these cars now, they are in a safe working condition. So that'll definitely support the MOT checks and vehicles coming in. But again, I think we've moved in the right direction. We've adapted in the right way, and that should give us a more robust service in the industry. But again, anything can happen. But I think we're much better prepared now.
Excellent, thank you. I think we've now run out of time, but I just want to extend my thanks to the three of you for bringing your insights, your expertise into this. And as we conclude this session, my thanks to James Ward, Senior Insight Manager from GFK, Pravesh Anta, Sales General Manager from Goodyear, and Andrea Menenti, Bridgestone Vice President North Region. Thank you very much all for your time.
Thanks so much.
Finding the right tyres for the right conditions is important. WhatTyre.com will help you find the right tyres for your car, whatever that may be. So if your tyres are underperforming or in need of replacing, get free, impartial and independent advice with WhatTyre.com. WhatTyre.com. Find the best tyres for you.